a floating point number. Something that always tricks people up. It's a weird bug to have because it won't give you an error. It will never give you an error. But when you're doing calculations, you may not be getting the numbers that you think it, and this may be one easy reason of why. You can just always go with floating point number, for instance, even if you're just working with integers. Questions?
Like floating point number just means decimal.
Right. Something here is that I won't be able to see your chat immediately.
I'll take it.
Okay, so Dr. Balfour is going to be on the lookout for your chat. So anyone, if you have a question, I do have my sound on, so you can chime in if you'd like, or you can chat, and we'll answer your questions as we go.
I was wondering whether I was Python turtle.
Yeah, I think I got that one. Okay. Another is when you're doing this, just like a calculator where you can say maybe answer plus something, you use the answer that you previously got and it's something else. You can do that too. You say another 5 to it and plus and then an underscore. Oh. Okay, it's a newer version.
It's the underscore, but the interpreter may not have it.
Okay, so this interpreter may be, we're going to find its limitations as we go. This may be one of them in regular Python, but so ignore now, I guess. But most of you are not going to be just using Python as a calculator, so move forward. I want to use next the of variables. So variables are containers that are going to hold something, hold a number, they can hold a character, they can hold any kind of data that you want. We'll talk about array lists next. So the variable is that you give your name. So you want it kind of a meaningful name. I'm going to call this num. And so if I set num equal to this, when I execute, you'll see that it's printed because the 2.5 is contained within num. This gives me the flexibility that I can do anything with num. Keep typing expression, 5 divided by 2. So now I can just say, and now I can do num. I can num equal to num times 2, and num out again. It's 2.5, and now I do. So this is the idea of variables. This will allow you have to copy your code over and over. You can save things into different variables and use them later on in your code. Does that make sense?
You have to hit command enter after every line.
Get it. So enter, just regular enter, will allow you to write more code. Mm-hmm. And you can say, I guess, command enter will execute when you're ready to execute your code.
Okay, we used to go over the exercise of having 3 numbers, one of them having one value, first number, second number, and then sum equals to something.
Sure. So Balfour was mentioning that you don't necessarily just have to do arithmetic on one variable. You can also multiply a variable by another. So if I have a number and I set num 2 equal to, let's say, other languages, I have to mention this, other languages, everything is ends with a semicolon. So but Python's not like that. You don't need to end it with a semicolon. Every time I type, I might automatically go to a semicolon. So if I put them there, anyway, so I have num and I have num 2 now. And now I can introduce a new variable called some keyword. So maybe my. So the top of keywords, you'll notice that the print statement is blue. So that means keyword that is restricted on. So you can't name your variables anything that is a keyword because they're in the namespace of Python. It has some function to do in Python. So if I can sum, you notice blue, so I want to maybe name something else, and I can set this equal to num plus num2, and then print. And so I have my num is equal to 5 now, and num2 I set equal to 10, at 15 when I. Really that you do is going to be kind of housed in these variables, and you're going to make variables to do things that you like. All right. So, question?
Why was my not 12.5?
Because of this line here. So I said equal to num times 2. Yeah. Something to be aware of here is if I get num here, if I just say num times 2, and I execute this, every time I print my num here and here, and I think that this will be 5 because I've multiplied it by 2, but I haven't actually reset my variable, so the changes are not affected. So So that's it. Any questions about variables? Chat.
Nothing in the chat.
Okay.
Thing to be aware of, I'm not sure if everybody's having the same problem I am, is
that
what you're typing
so
on the screen. So I can see your live version here and what appears on the screen. There's a lag behind it. There's a lag.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully
But it catches up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I apologize. And there's also people here in the session. So if you hear me talking to somebody, the people that are actually here. So I'm not talking to myself. Okay. So this is kind of, these are integers and floating points. So these are numbers. There's also strings that we call it in programming. So if you hear me say string, it's just text. So I variable, let's say name, and I set that equal to Casey. Double quotes, for instance. And so now if I print out name, I print out, and so strings may be the thing that you guys may use most if you want to do any manipulation of like names of client, anything like that. This become actually important. So something to do with strings, you can concatenate strings together, and so I can print name plus. So this will work just like, well, not like regular addition. So it doesn't make much sense, right? If you're going to add 2 letters together, what would be the outcome of it? If you're going to add A plus B, that I'll show you what it does. So say colon. If I enter, so now you'll see that they're just concatenated together. Something you can do in Python is if you want to duplicate or replicate a variable or replicate a string, you can actually say 2 times name. This will replicate it twice. So this is something that I thought was kind of cool. In languages, you have to do this. It's kind of painstaking, but here you can just multiply, which makes sense. So then other things you can do with strings is you can index into them. You can grab specific parts of the string. If maybe you want to just the part of the string, you can. And notice I didn't actually change the name. So it should still be Casey. I've used it here, but I haven't reset it, so it should just be Casey. Is I can grab different parts of the string. So if I say name, do that as with square brackets. And I think that's funny in computer science that most opposite to 0. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but the very first character is actually going to be in the 0th position instead of 1 that you may think. So you may think the character, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, set at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's something to keep in mind. So if I go ahead and print this out, this should print out C, which it does. Okay. So you can do characters, you can do characters, so you can say name, say the first 2 characters. So I was this morning. I was thinking that you do 0 to 1, actually, and this is different. And this is actually different between other scripted languages and Python. We'll view everything just before index 1, so to say 2, and view index 0 and 1, but not 2. That I want, for instance, from 2 to the end, and if you just leave the second indice empty, so you just say 2 colon, and this will give every index 2 to the end. So as the index 2, so it'll just give me that last part. So now from 2 to the end, you can do it so from name to 2. And that'll give you CA. So that's indexing. I have one thing in indexing. Do you have something to add?
Can you maybe stop at this point and have them give the exercise? So
Okay.
can you print in KC? Can you print CCA, SEYCA?
Okay. So exercise is if you want to do this on your own and using your own name, maybe you can split it up that way. But could print out this, can you with this?
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to come up with is SEYCA. That's your exercise. Just a few more seconds.
What internet?
USC student.
I don't know if it's my computer or if it says can't connect. I don't know if it is my computer.
Okay, well, so the the answer to this would be, you could do several different ways. So you could say, let's see, I want to print a name at 2 plus name at 3 plus name at 4 plus, I'm going to get rid of this, name at, what would that be? Okay, so obviously this is brute force, and you would not do it this way, but you could. Answer. Additionally, so using those indexes that we saw that from one index to the end or to the end, you could do print, oh, 2 prints, don't need 2 prints. Name, end plus name, beginning to 2. So that's the answer. So there's several different ways usually to accomplish something in Python. It's press readability. So another thing I did want to say about indexes is some languages are picky. If you, for instance, you have a string that is, for instance, here characters, and you try to index into some, say, index 6, so there's an error. It will give you an error, but you'll see that at 6, Python is actually, since Python and other languages will just send back something blank. It won't give you an error, but so.
Python does that, but if you say 0 to 6 or 10, then it works. So it's kind of weird.
Okay, so it probably gives you an error here, but not necessarily here. So if you have valid, if you give it somewhat of a valid range, so you give it here 0 to 4 is valid, but you give it 2 extra ranges, it's okay. It's not going to give you an error. It's just going to print out the most that it can. So it prints the whole thing here, and it doesn't give you an error saying that you indexed out of bounds. Something less matters more, I guess, in other languages, but okay. If you want to, for instance, the name now has Casey in it, but say you wanted to change the characters. You wanted to change the C in this instance from an uppercase to a lowercase. So you would want to say, so name at 0. We want to set this equal to C, like a little c. So you can go. So Python strings are, you can't change them. You can't change them like this, at least. So what, if you do want to create a new string, there's a concept called commenting, and if you comment your code, then it won't be executed. So code that I want to keep this just for illustrative purposes, but I don't want it to be executed and get this error every time. So I guess or pound sign is going to be a comment. So this won't be executed anymore. So if I changed my string to Casey, I'd have to make a new string. So I could say name to and set this equal to C plus name to the end. And print name to. So you would accomplish it this way. Okay, so I flew all that. I hope I didn't lose anybody.
I think if you're looking to do things, I think it would be useful at this point to just write a very short program that says number 1 is this, number 2 is this, sum is this. Add them together, but then a mix of strings and numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This part. So you can combine. I also was going to go over lists too, just to brief into lists. So I'm not out of material. I flew the beginning strings and integers quickly. you can combine integers and strings, there's no problem. But if you're going to be thinking with strings, Python's going to treat your numbers as strings as well. Because you say 1 plus c, so it will concatenate together. So what I mean by that is, so I have my name 2. I can now set this equal to name 2 1. It's really going to make sense. I have to give you an error. I do this in Perl, but you can't do this in Python. So we're going to have an issue with this. So you'd have to combine it actually if you put it in double quotes. So you can put a number in it. So you can add a number to it, but you just have to put it in double quotes. So some languages will say +1, and it will automatically convert it to a string. Okay. If not, I'm going to go into lists. And those are kind of like arrays, if you guys have ever used arrays or statistics. Okay. Let me switch over to chat real quick. Chat seems to be quiet. So we're going to move forward. So are exactly what they sound like. For those of you who are familiar with other languages, you may have heard them called arrays or matrices, or data frames if you've used R before. But so here in Python, we call them lists. And so I can create a new list just like I did. It's going to be a variable again. It's just going to be a list variable. I'm going to my list. I'm going to set it equal to in script, and I'm just going to give it some numbers. So my list. Then, my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you index into this the exact same way that you index into strings. So you can say, my list. So I can print this. 1, you do 0, 2, 3. I'm going to get the first. And index at 0. So the first element is 0, second 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I think so.
I tried it without the brackets.
So guys, could you do it without the brackets like this? Okay. It's like that, but it may be a different data structure than a list. There's several different data structures. I think we'll deal mostly with lists here, but there are metadata structures that it could be something else, and that's a comment or parentheses to note. Let's see. So unlike strings, you can actually change the elements of a list, but how you may think you should do with strings. So if I were to change this first element 1 to 10, I could set my list at 0 equal to 10. Okay. Ha. So what that data structure is called a tuple. There are tuples in R, for instance, and other languages. I'm going to switch them back to a list with square brackets. So it was a different data structure. So I'm going to print my list out again. So now that the first element has changed. So one function that I forgot to tell you about that is useful is the length function. So I can see, so just for my string, we'll go back to string just for a second. So n, and this is going to be our introduction to functions. We'll use a lot of these functions as we go. So we can give it a variable. So I'm going to give it my name 2, which I think at this point, KC1, I think this is my name 2 here. So if I print this, I get 6 characters. So there's the length of it. Now instead of name, I can put my list, and it will do the same thing. It'll just count the number of. So we're not, for instance, when we talk about loops, which will be tomorrow, about for loops and if statements, and those will be, we iterate through something, and so we need to know the length to iterate. So nice. A side note, forgot about that. So what do with lists? So you can concatenate lists together. So if I want to print it, so I have a list, and at the end of it, I wanted to add 6, 8. I can do that. A bigger list, make it a longer list with elements added. I can delete elements. So to remove elements and set elements. So let's say I want to delete that 10 from the front. I can set that 0 equals to empty bracket. So to an empty space. And I probably want to print that. It's deleted. We can append elements. So instead of, so I'm going to remove this. And that I can say my list dot append. And I can send in, I don't know, I'll put a 6 on the end. So append is just going to put, let me print it. So to put that 6 at the end.
I printed with the replacing 0 with the empty space. It actually printed out to correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
Okay, this one.
Yeah. You can also set several elements at once. So what I mean is before here where we set 0 to 10, you can do multiple. So if you wanted to say add at the beginning from 0 to 2, you want to add -2, -1. So now this, so we had emptied the spot here, so that's no problem. Our -2 was put there, but then our -1 took the spot of 2, so we wrote it. So that's the difference between setting elements and actually like appending them. The concept of negative indexing too, for those of you that are, let me check. So let me put this too. The answer is no. Here, thing that you can do in, for instance, like R, you can do a sequence, kind of would populate it from like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can't do that in Python. There may be functions built in for you to do that. I can into that. I'm sure there's something that somebody has written in some library. Probably a way to do it. Oh, well, it's the wrong list, but that's okay. there an easy way to comment? Oh, forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, sorry, I left, so I have to check the chat myself. Okay, so that's mean override. So you would overwrite the values instead of adding them, actually. Seems one more thing I wanted to mention about that, but. Okay, all right, great. No, that's the best way to learn, is just to play around with it. So if you wanted to append a bunch of things to the end, you could say a list and then use this length within the brackets. There's no problem with that. So you can say length of my list. And I forgot how big our list is at this point. Let's say to 10. Fail, I think, but I think I know why. Okay. Well, maybe not. So let's see. Let's first list. Sorry, the length of our list, so we know how long it is. So my list, length of my list. Okay, 6. List, and basically this is turning 6 to 10. We need 4 here. I think this is the error that it's giving us. And print my list. This is a way that you could append things to the end. Also shows you can. This is just going to return an integer, so there's no reason why you can't use it in place of another integer, which is your indices. Okay. Okay. For this is all like the basic stuff that you need to dive in, but if you haven't seen this as then if you get into like for loops and if statements and things like that, then you may get a little lost on this beginning part. Are there any questions from those of you that are online? Because that's pretty much all I have for today. Tomorrow we're going to go over control statements. So we're going to go over how to iterate through these lists, if statements, and that kind of stuff. What's important is for you guys to figure out what kind of data that you want to work with, and then from there either contact Dr. Valfar or email us or tell us what kind of data you guys are using and how be processing it, so we can build in for you to do and make the workshops as helpful as possible. Okay. If there is nothing else, then I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay.
Where I can look black screen and the line number and be able to correlate it to.
The best thing to do would just be to comment things out. Comments like put the lines to these guys, and you can just comment that you don't want to see out, and then just execute it as you go. That would be the easiest.
Oh, here.
You could also, when you're printing, you can say like 49 plus my list, and then it will print out. So here, okay, so you made a string onto a list. it may be, so instead, for instance, print line, because you're going to be seeing the, so then, so now you from line 50, so that's, yeah, that is what it is.
I was just looking at different ways of commands, trying to get it to do what the column would do, the question
Mhm.
that was posed about whether or not you get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I tried it with another command and it did that way, and then I did the thing you call for it, I don't know the name of it. The greater than, and then I got like a true, and then I got a false,
Oh,
which I don't know.
okay.
It was, okay, because I had 0 and 4, and so when I used like the caret, or greater than, like 0 greater than 4, it came out false, and then,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, that's a good, so next, tomorrow, we're gonna talk about if statements, and inside of every if statement is called a Boolean statement, and that's gonna evaluate to true or false. So like, if the statement is true,
It's
then
like
do
logic.
this. It's like logic, exactly. So that you did something, some logical statement in there, so
Yeah,
it's returning
that's what
true.
I was thinking, because when I came up, like, oh, it's like logic. I wonder.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, chat. Okay. Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.